All right, welcome back to Chapter 3 with
Chapter
Coach
3.
Mike Jarvis. So, Chapter 3 is titled Character.
Yep.
What does it mean to have good character?
I think it means everything. I mean, it's who we are. It's who we really are. When we think we're alone with ourselves, it encompasses what we're thinking, not only what we're saying and what we're doing. It's pretty serious stuff.
Why is it important to have as a coach, in your experience?
Why is it important to have character
Good character.
as a coach?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the coach, as the coach, it's important for me to try to have the best character I can have so that I can be the best coach and the best leader that my players have. To be the best, to try to be the best parent that I can be for my kids, to try to be the best brother that I can be for my siblings, to try to be the best friend that I can be for my friends, to try to be the best husband that I can be for my wife. It's who I am. I mean, who I really am, and not who other people think I am. What do they say about reputation? Reputation's like the bark or the leaves on a tree, whereas our character is the tree itself. The roots and the stump, the whole tree. So it's who we really are. And Red Auerbach, one of my dear friends and mentors, once told me that if you're going to build a strong team, you have to recruit people of real strong character. And his saying was, recruit character, not characters. And it's so true. Just think of all the people that like the students. If you start thinking about the people that you associate with, the people that you hang with, the people that you consider to be your friends, the stronger their character is, the stronger you will be, the better you'll be.
I like that. Recruit character, not characters.
Amen.
In your experience, when you would look for character,
Yeah.
what specific traits really stood out to you as a coach?
As a coach, and I think just like anybody that's running a business, and you're looking for people to work for you, you're looking for talented people, make no mistake about it. They've got to be talented, and they've got to bring something special to the table. So you take that as, the base. Talented people that bring something special, that can, provide something that maybe you don't have, that can fit into the puzzle that you're trying to piece together. But at the end of the day, it's about people, and it's about what kind of people they really are. Like, are they people that you can trust? Are they people that are going to be loyal? Are they people that are going to work on their own? They're going to be committed to the cause? Are they people that really care about you and the goals and the mission that you have? And are they willing to, do the little things that are going to make it all possible for the team, for the group, for the organization, for the company to be successful? Or are they just about themselves? Or are they going to be there with you during the good times and the bad times?
So ideally, you want someone who adds value as your
Yes.
foundation, but also with equally, if at least equally good character.
Yes.
Has there ever been a situation where you would overlook or maybe not recruit someone who had a lot of talent, who added a lot of value,
Yeah.
but unfortunately didn't have the corresponding character?
Yeah.
Has there ever been a situation where you wouldn't recruit someone like that because the character wasn't there, the character was lacking?
There have been times when I wouldn't recruit somebody who lacked the character, and I will honestly say there's been times when I thought that maybe I could instill that character in others that maybe didn't have it because I overlooked their character flaws and looked more upon their talent level. And I can honestly say that when I did that, usually I paid the price for it. Those individuals that that had serious character flaws, those character flaws usually come back to really raise havoc and to really disrupt the team and the success of the team. People talk about, like in sports, they talk about chemistry, a team having good chemistry. Like right now there's the Golden State Warriors, and they seem to really all be on the same page, and everybody does their thing, but it's for the good of the team. And that's when you have success. But invariably what happens is all it takes is one of those individuals to all of a sudden decide that they and what they do is more important than the team, and they go off on their own. And when that happens, you have usually disaster waiting for you. Red Auerbach, recruit character, not characters. And he did that all through, his coaching years. And when the Boston Celtics hit probably the worst time in the history of their franchise, it was when, as the general manager, he made a couple of mistakes. He probably overlooked. He probably went more for talent than he did for character. And in one of those instances, a great talent, Len Bias, had a serious character flaw. It might have only been for one night, but which killed him, which was drugs. And the organization suffered from that for many years. And then they got back to, the character recruitment when they started once again selecting players like Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and so forth and so on, just like they had done in the previous years with players like Bill Russell and, all those great players. So we all can fall for the trap, go for the glamour, go for the the superstar, when maybe the second or third player who has that real character might have been a better fit.
More often than not, it didn't end well when talent trumped character.
It doesn't. No, invariably. You look through the history of the world, and you see examples of that all through history. Whether you're reading in the Bible, or you're reading American history, which unfortunately a lot of kids today don't really read anymore. But nevertheless, when you take talent and only talent without really looking at character, you could be setting yourself up for failure.
You reference God the character in the book.
Yes.
Especially in this chapter. How does that character you describe in chapter 3 differ from how today's culture generally defines character?
Well, I think today, once again, I've said this before, the devil is working overtime. He knows his time is short, so he is pulling out all the stops. And whenever the devil wants to disrupt things and change things, he goes after the young. He goes after the future, the future generation, the people that are going to really define where we're going and how we're getting there. And so, the devil is exposing the young and enticing them with all of the trappings, the glitter, the gold, the glory, the money, the power, the fame. And what happens is the most important ingredient, the devil doesn't want you to see, the ingredient that brings it all together, that just like, we talk about a relationship, and I often ask people, well, how many people does it take to have a good marriage? And most people say 2. And the reality is it takes 3. It's the man, the wife, and God. And you put those 3 together with God in the middle, you got something special. Well, what's missing today with many, many young people particularly is the most important ingredient, and that's Christ. Christ has got to be not only in the mix, he's got to be the main ingredient in the mix. He's got to be at the center of everything. And when you build a team, a family, an organization, if you try to do it without it being Christ-centered, it probably will not succeed the way it would if Christ was in it.
Did you see that a lot when working with Jim Haney?
Yeah, Jim Haney, National Association of Basketball Coaches Executive Director. I reference Jim as a man of incredible character, a man that not only had a strong relationship with Christ, but also understood the importance of sharing that relationship with the member coaches. You know, an organization, the NABC at one time, Christ wasn't really in the picture. You know, the Final Four every year and the coaches convention go hand in hand. They happen at the same time, at the same place. And there was a time when the convention, it was family orientated, then all of a sudden it went to be more just the guys hanging out, you know, doing their basketball business by day and having a good time at night, and the family aspect of it started to disappear. And Jim came in, he said, if we're really going to have an organization that's really going to try to change the culture, try to really have a positive impact on it, then God's got to be a part of it. And so what he did was he was bold enough and daring enough that he said, listen, you know, we're going to take advantage of groups like Athletes in Action, FCA, fatherhood organizations, and we're going to start to incorporate them in the Final Four of the convention, and we're going to bring families back. And perfect example was, I remember about 10 years ago going to one of the first non-denominational services they had on Easter, because many times the convention would fall on Easter Sunday. So, you know, even if it didn't, there would always be a Sunday church service. And the first year, I think there were like 40 people in attendance. And this year at the Final Four, in 2018, there were over 1,000 people who attended the service. But not only the service, but so many other faith-based activities for families, for the marriage, for, in fact, the last event I went to was a marriage luncheon. And so there's so many good things. And, you know, Jim Haney talked about the fact that he refers to it, and I think in our book it's Galatians 2:20. You know, I've been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. And that's what Jim Haney is about. You know, he realizes it's not about him, and he realizes that it's everything, he owes everything to Christ, and that Christ lives in him. And what he wants to do is what we are supposed to do, and that is to share that with everybody that he possibly can. And with him, that means trying to share that with the coaches, and the coaches in turn hopefully will share that with the players.
In your chapter, you mentioned actually how Jim Haney mentioned that there was no one good but God. What was that like to hear, especially since Christ wasn't in the picture at that time for you?
Well, you know what? I mean, I didn't really understand really what that really meant, that there was nobody good but God.
Yeah.
Until I really started to hear it on a regular Sunday basis. And that was starting in 2004 when I moved to Florida and attended the Spanish River Church in Boca and met the fellow that would bring me to Christ, Pastor David Nicholas. And every Sunday, and one of the reasons why we went to the church was my wife loved the fact that it was a teaching church, and that every Sunday you heard the gospel, you heard the bad news, you heard about, how we were basically born into sin and how we were like filthy rags. And it was tough at first to hear that. But it always then went to the good news. And the good news was that, God loves us so much that he sent his son to live and die for us and to pay for our sins by shedding his blood. And that's the good. That's the good news. And the good in us is the Son, Jesus Christ. So,
Amen. So when you're true with yourself and honestly assessing your strengths and weaknesses, how often do you evaluate your strengths and weaknesses?
As I get older, more and more. I mean, I find some nights I can hardly go to sleep because I number one, I'm asking God to please wake me up tomorrow so I can try to do it better and play another game, the game of life. And it's one of the things as a teacher, as a coach, as a parent, you're really trying to not only understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, but also the people that you're, that are under you, your children, your players. And it's not easy, recognizing what you cannot do as well as what you can do. And to give some time to maybe, to give up something, to give up maybe what you might personally want for the good of the team. And but that's what you have to do.
It's not easy to be honest with yourself.
No.
Especially if you're looking at your team, looking at honestly what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. How, when you look at the weaknesses in your team, how would you go about communicating that with them? How would you be able to gently point that out in your team?
Well, you use the word gently, and it would be nice, and I wish that, one of the things I wish that I had been a little better at, and I hope that people will do it better than I did, and that is to try to be maybe firm, but at the same time gentle. There were times when I think I was like bull. It's like I just wanted so much for them to understand, to get it, that I'm sure there were times when I was guilty of beating them over the head with it. But you gotta be, you gotta know the truth, and you've gotta be work at getting as good as you can at delivering the truth in as positive and, if possible, as gentle a way as possible, so that they continue to want to listen to what you have to say. But you get sometimes so excited about sharing the word that you maybe get a little overzealous in doing it. And that's something you have to be really careful about.
It's about that balance.
It is. But, everything's about balance, really. My mother-in-law, God rest her soul, Nana Hurley, Connie's, my wife's mom, had so many sayings. And many of them were biblically related. I didn't realize at the time, but one of her sayings was, too much of anything is good for nothing. And that's so true. And that could, whether it's money, whether it's power, whether it's sex, whether it's even study, too much of anything, you gotta have balance. You gotta have a nice moderation is really important, is really key.
It seems like even when you work with Jen Haney, he noticed that regarding professional and personal life. Yes, it's great to be involved as a coach, but making sure that family component is not left out.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's when our time ends, like they say, there's a little dash that's on our tombstone between the day we were born and the day we died. And what happens in between those years defines, the quality of life that we lived. And nobody's going to remember how many games a coach wins. I don't care how many he wins. He could be the number one coach of all time. No, they're not going to remember how many wins he had. They're going to remember, more importantly, what kind of an impact did he have? What kind of person he was. Nobody's going to remember how many books the greatest author of all time wrote. To be honest with you, they're going to remember the quality of his work. So, it is great that people realize that there has to be, balance, and that you have to really try to involve the whole family.
What can students start doing today that will help them strengthen that internal character?
Well, we lay out some pretty good things, some keys to help with that. I think first of all, that, we go back to study. And what do you study? Well, I tell you, if you can spend time in the Word, studying the Word, there is nothing that we need to know. There's nothing, everything that we need to know is in God's playbook. It's in the Bible. Even if you just read Proverbs, you would probably be able to live a much more fulfilling life. So I think study the Word. And it's, and that, I think what goes hand in hand with that is spending time in the Word. In prayer, spending time here. So you study the Word, you spend time in prayer. And, I know that my wife and I remember the very first night that we were married, on our marriage night, she said, let's pray together, and let's say the Lord's Prayer together. And we did. And I really believe that that's helped us. And we continue to do that. Then after the Lord's Prayer, we then just pray, just talk about what things we want to thank God for and what things we want to ask God for, knowing that we're not going to always get what we want, but we can ask anyhow. For example, we've got to honestly assess ourselves and evaluate ourselves. We've got to know our strengths. We've got to know our weaknesses. And you know what? Like my Little League coach we talked about in one of the previous chapters, is we can't get amnesia. We can't forget, the things that God wants us to remember. That's why he wrote it down, put it in black and white. And another thing my mother-in-law always used to say was, put it in black and white, write it down. That way you won't forget it, and that way those who need to remember it will have it there. And, I just hope that people will not only hear what we're saying, but understand what we're saying, and in some way be able to use, if they're not already using most of the things we're talking about. Maybe there's one or two more things that we'll say that they can use. If so, boy, I'll tell you, this has been such a blessing.